to drop the beat during this segment. Maybe we'll drop 2 beats tonight. Max Blumenthal finally was invited on the Piers Morgan show. I can't believe they did it, but they did. He was there, and boy, did he let them have it. He schooled them. The pro-Israel influencer, pro-paid Israel influencer, he schooled. But most importantly, he schooled Alan Dershowitz. That's right. Let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gents. This was epic. If there's one Piers Morgan episode you should watch, it's this one. We're going to start right about here.
Well, former State Department Press Secretary Matthew Miller said, after defending Netanyahu day after day, that Netanyahu shattered every ceasefire agreement, broke every possible deal in order to survive and hold his narrow coalition together, a coalition that features people like Gila Gamliel, the innovation minister, who said the real agenda in Gaza is to make Gaza uninhabitable until the population leaves, and we'll do the same in the West Bank. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, has said that this is a business deal, that Gaza is a business deal and a real estate bonanza, and we need to divide it. The first stage was demolition and building in Gaza, and basically taking it over for Jewish settlers is cheaper. So that's the real agenda. We're witnessing a kind of final solution that Netanyahu affirmed in May 2025 when he said, we will destroy the homes of the people in Gaza to make them leave. Today, Israel destroyed the largest residential tower in Gaza City, a residential tower, because I've reported in Gaza, that I've actually seen. And the defense minister, Israel Katz, celebrated this. They're celebrating the destruction of entire neighborhoods, which is why, while Israel is waging a seventh front war, which now extends into U.S. allies to kill the negotiating team because it was getting in the way of this final solution, they're actually extending into an eighth front, which is the United States, where Netanyahu has said that his coterie of billionaires, including Larry Ellison, must buy TikTok and buy all these media assets to prevent the PR propaganda collapse that Israel's facing. And we have a panelist here who was in that meeting who appropriately compared Netanyahu and his Likud party to Donald Trump's GOP, essentially because the Likud party controls Donald Trump through vehicles like Israeli asset Miriam Adelson.
Okay, Katie, I'm going to come to you because I was going to.
Where's the lie? Now, this woman up here, this is Katie. She's a paid pro-Israel influencer. She was the woman that was in that room. The story I covered recently, the influencers meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, asking how to get the evangelical Christians back on board for Netanyahu. Now, watch this, guys. She's going to try to go with, when all else fails, let's just try to say, oh, you're paid by Qatar. You were paid by Iran. And it's funny because she's paid by Israel. Like that's the part that's hilarious to me. But she's going to try to go with that because she can't debunk what Max is saying. There's no lie there. We've all seen the footage. We've seen what's been happening. We see what's been going on. That's why I told you Israel lost control of the narrative. That's why they're trying to get it. Let's flood the social media. Let's do all of this. They are on defense at this point in time. Israel with the narrative. They're on defense. So let's listen to her.
Come to you before I went back to Alan. So I will come to you, but just on that point about that meeting, Deborah Lee, you were in the Netanyahu influencer meeting. Do you recognize the characterization that Max just put up for that?
I think everything that Max is saying is just honestly hysterical because it is so two-sided. Max, you are directly funded by Iran, Russia, and Qatar. The organization that you work for is directly
That's a huge lie. That's a lie.
From the Iranian Play TV that is proven from your own documents. It is proven that is, you have received money. I've never received a dollar from Israel or the Israeli government, whereas your company, Gray Zone, is directly, this is not liable. It has been proven in documents from your own company. But at the intro,
violating U.S. sanctions.
Yes, you claim that your organization, Gray Zone, simply runs off readers donating money, but that is not true, and that is absolutely not true because it's been proven. And Piers, I just wanted to address what you said on the intro of this, that Bibi was saying that he needs to buy TikTok and that make it an Israeli weapon. I was in that meeting. I posted the video. The video that you played was my video. If you watch the video for yourself, he never said that. I was asking Bibi about what do we do in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it, trying to get a mistrial for him and not get justice for Charlie Kirk. So I was asking Bibi, because I wrote a paper when I was in college, as Max mentioned, about the similarities between the GOP party and the identities and the values of the Republican Party under Trump, and how the Likud party in Israel under Benjamin Netanyahu has similar ideologies and values, and they're cut from the same ideological cloth. I didn't say that the Likud party controls the GOP. I literally wrote that they just have similar ideological values, which I hold as a conservative Jew. So as far as buying TikTok, we saw in that video, every single person here and nearly every single commentator agrees. I've never received dollars.
Know who you were.
Keep trying.
Yeah. Also, and buying her. 1 second. With had to freeze that there. Yeah, and buying her. Right. So here's the funny part about all this. It's just hilarious that she would say that someone is funded by another country because she's funded by another country. And that is a smear that came from Israel. Israel smeared the gray zone by saying, oh, they're funded by Qatar. They're funded by, by the way, Qatar is an ally of the United States. There's that. That don't work. Then they say, oh, they're funded by Iran. They're funded by Russia. None of those countries are Israel. None of those countries are committing a genocide. So even if that were true, this is what people need to pay attention to. That's not even a good comparison. Not even a good one. But Max comes back in because he's not willing to let this go. He is going to tell her about herself.
2020. I'm not lying. You're a liar. Anyway, I wasn't done talking. Every single person here, every single political commentator, and the Trump administration will acknowledge that TikTok is a grave threat to the United States if it was controlled by China. All of us have acknowledged how China can influence the United States through TikTok, through videos, through making us dumber, through putting out propaganda, whatever it is. Same with X. Why do you think Elon Musk bought X? Because we recognize the free speech issues on there under Mark Zuckerberg.
Why is it that every single time, though, an American female Jew
let's hear from Katie.
In modern times,
Deborah, let's hear. Okay, time out. Let's hear from Katie.
I just don't understand.
Wait, no.
So this woman here, she got her talking points. These people are paid propagandists. If you are paid by another country to do said agenda, you really don't have the nerve. You really have the audacity to call out someone else for being paid, right? Which he's not. But you have the audacity to make that claim towards someone else. Honey, you paid. You paid. You sat right there in a room with a freaking war criminal who's killed all these children because you were willing to do anything for money, honey. That's the sad part. All the influencers that are willing to sell their soul, to sell out the youth, to sell out children, to turn a blind eye to genocide just to get a paycheck. And that includes Officer Tatum and his dumb ass as well. You can add him to that list too. Who stands there? What black man stands there and says, Prime Minister, I took a trip to Israel and my church group, and they was really nice to us, and there we were only spit on once. I was seriously watching that video thinking to myself, are you going to ask if you can shine his shoes next? They should all be ashamed, but they're not. They want money. That's it. Money and fame and all this stuff that comes with it. That's what it all comes back to. You even got black influencers that are willing to sell out for a check. That's the saddest part. The white influencers, I get on all of them, but the white influencers who are doing it, I'm just kind of like, yeah. You don't give a damn about the Palestinian people. Come on. You're going to try to attach yourself to what's the closest to whiteness, if you can. But for the black ones, those are the ones that really irk my nerve because you know better. You know a lot better. Now that's her crazy self. Like, to sit in there in a room with a war criminal and ask him, what can we do to make sure the evangelicals stay on board to support Israel? From all of this, from a book, hold on, we coming to Dershowitz. Hold on, Dersh, we coming. All this from a book that you don't know is real or not. Everyone needs to put their biases aside for just a second. I don't care if you're religious or not. I grew up in the church, but I still say this. Religion is a belief. And they really got people out here saying we gotta let them kill these Palestinian kids. So, that's the Holy Land for them. And when the rapture comes and all this stuff, all of this based on a belief. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if that's the real Bible. All you know is what you were told. How many times have we been lied to? How many times? And then for those of us who have read the Bible, even the modern day Israel of today is not the Israel that is mentioned in the Bible. And I will continue to say that until more Christians wake up. Wake up. How many times have we been told something was one thing and it turned out to be not that case? When I was a kid, they said Pluto was a planet. Later on, they say Pluto, no planet. Now they're trying to say it's a planet again. You see where I'm coming from here? I'm not here to tell you. You believe what you want to believe. If you want to practice a certain religion, you practice a certain religion. All I'm asking you to do is to think outside the box and do your own research. And acknowledge that religion is a belief. It is not law, not in this country. All of this from a book. And I'm gonna look into this one day. I'm gonna see where all this came from. I'm gonna see where all of this came from. Where it all come from. Islam is the biggest religion in the world. And you have Christian organizations that go around the world to spread the gospel, to spread Christianity. But what are they also asking you to do? They're asking you to support the greater Israel. But I didn't tell you this part till you get deep into it. And then this is another part as well. The Israelis see the Christians as a means to an end. They don't like you either. Okay? It's really sad. It's so much control. The masses have been controlled. All I'm asking you to do is do your own research. That's it. Now let's get to Dersh.
Say that Netanyahu is going to be able to drag the U.S. back into another war with Iran, just as he did before, knowing that he couldn't go in and finish a war that he started without the Trump administration going along and basically letting him escape. And most Americans don't want this. Charlie personally lobbied against this inside the White House.
Israel started the war with Iran?
American soldiers to fight and die for a crazy little apartheid state. But you have this dynamic where Miriam Adelson has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, paying for his campaign. This is an Israeli asset. And now, and this goes to the Tony Blair question that Piers asked, Larry Ellison has contributed something like $300 million to the Tony Blair Institute. And they're going to use that to collect the data of people in Gaza who will be put in, as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said in its internal documents, biometric concentration camps after they're ethnically cleansed from the north. And all of these tech companies, I don't know, Katie, if Elon will be involved in this, but they will come in and reap massive contracts from this Holocaust. And Tony Blair will be shepherding in those contracts as he did in the occupied West Bank as a so-called peace negotiator. This is Tony Blair's real role. And what is Larry Ellison doing in the United States? He's buying Paramount to do a propaganda film, to do propaganda films for Israel. His son is buying CBS, and they'll put Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief. This is the takeover that Netanyahu outlined in the meeting with Deborah Leah and these other influencers that they're seeking to buy and control because they've lost the propaganda war. So it is an 8-front war, and Donald Trump is under, as Tucker Carlson's sources said, Netanyahu's thumb. This is the worst foreign meddling that we have ever witnessed. I agree with Alan that Russiagate was a hoax. This is the real foreign meddling scandal. It's Israelgate.
All right, Alan, your response to that?
Before he responds, I think we got to drop the beat. We got to drop the beat. Russiagate was such a distraction. You really should have been paying attention to Israel. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. Woo! I'm telling you, there's so many distractions. You look back now at Russiagate and you have to laugh. You have to just laugh.
And to the Tony Blair report.
Well, I like the idea of Tony Blair. He's not perfect, but he has a lot of credibility. He did a great job in Northern Ireland. And I think he may be the least worst solution, but I cannot avoid.
Tony Blair was a war criminal. For those of us who remember the Iraq War, for those of you not aware, Tony Blair was a war criminal. He ignored human rights abuses in Iraq. But Alan Dershowitz thinks that, I think he's a good person. He didn't do everything right, but he's okay. And da-da-da. Of course, the guy who represented Jeffrey Epstein, who sexually trafficked all them damn women, of course he'd have no problem with a war criminal like Tony Blair. Look at all the company that Alan Dershowitz wants to keep. Sex traffickers, war criminals. Of course he would have no problem with Tony Blair. He has more of an issue of people calling out a genocide than he does with war criminals and Jeffrey Epstein abusing women on that island. And that's a fact.
Commenting about Max. I mean, basically, what he has said about, Jews controlling this sounds like it could have been
say Jews.
Part of the protocols of the elders.
I didn't say Jews.
He talks about Ellison. Ellison is not Israeli. You just insinuated. He's a Jew.
No, I said Zion.
So we see the lie, right? Here come the lies. The Zionist lies. Did you hear Max Blumenthal say that? That was not what he said. But this is what they do. Oh, me, the victim. Oh my God. He's making criticisms here. That was not the words that came out of Max Blumenthal's mouth. Also, Max Blumenthal is Jewish. This is what, exposed. And if I get flustered, it's because I'm so sick of the lies. I'm so sick of the dishonesty. I'm so sick of the, woe is me. Ain't no woe is you. You not oppressed. You ain't occupied. You're not living in an open air prison. From what I understand, Alan Dershowitz, you seem to be doing just well. I told you guys before to pay attention about the white minority. Because somehow, and especially over the years, I got to tell you, as someone who is a Black American, my people didn't get any reparations. My people didn't get 40 acres and a mule. My people don't have their own state that is for them. My people still have to deal with injustice in the criminal justice system, which Alan Dershowitz is a part of and gets these people off. But woe is me for Alan Dershowitz.
He talks about Miriam
like
Adelson, who's an American. Yeah, I'm not an Israel firster. I'm an American firster.
You've dedicated your career to defending
strongly
Israel.
Believes
when you're not defending Jeffrey Epstein, you're defending Israel.
I dedicated my career to defending Bill Clinton,
and to defending wife killers,
Kennedy,
but also to defending Jeffrey Epstein and Israel.
Defending
the ultimate wife killer.
You want to talk about who I defend?
So, in other words, he defends corrupt people. Bill Clinton is corrupt. Bill Clinton was also on that Epstein island. Ted Kennedy killed a woman and got away with it. Corrupt. This isn't even a denial. It's not like Ted Kennedy did not. We didn't talked about this before on the show. I done told you. He represents corrupt people. That's what he does. And then he gets mad when you call him out for representing corruption. You chose to represent those people. Ain't nobody make you do that. And he did it for the money. Those are high profile cases. So Alan Dershowitz likes to represent corrupt people.
Then talk about John Adams, who defended the killers of people and at the beginning of the American Revolution. Let's get to the merits of this thing. The idea is that America is an independent country. Donald Trump is an independent. What did you say?
You were according to new emails that have been. According to new emails that were reported by Bloomberg on the 26th of this month, you advised Jeffrey Epstein and wrote You advised.
I was his lawyer.
Jeffrey Epstein is a good person who does.
I was his lawyer.
I was his lawyer
after he was indicted.
So did you write?
I was his
that Jeffrey Epstein is a good person who does many good things? Because you say you don't remember doing that. That just came out in an email, and you.
I was his lawyer. I was his lawyer. It reminds me of Better Call Saul. You guys ever watch Better Call Saul? Like for the theme, it says, "I'm a lawyer." Remember that?
Tuned his victims, calling the girls self-described prostitutes. So when you weren't defending Jeffrey Epstein, you're defending an apartheid state.
As a criminal, I am not defending the apartheid state. Israel is the most integrated, least apartheid state of any country in the Middle East.
Right,
and
that's why it's annexing the West Bank.
If you're Jewish, and Saudi Arabia,
a minority of the population.
Let me finish.
So, because there are Ethiopians that live in Israel, he says there's no apartheid, but there is apartheid, where Palestinians people have different passports, and depending on what your passport says, tells you where you can go. We even CNN did a whole special showing people what it's like to travel through the West Bank and how even the journalists who were there were stopped by armed gunmen. But he tells you there's no apartheid. Many have documented, of course, Max Blumenthal has been there. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote about this in his book, The Message. Many have documented that the apartheid system in Israel is worse than apartheid was in South Africa. But they continue to tell you there's no apartheid because they got a couple of Ethiopian people sprinkled around in there. But then they don't tell you that Israel sterilized Ethiopian women against their will because they didn't want them to have more babies. Hello. They don't want to tell you that part. Hell, the United States is a melting pot. But even under Jim Crow, it was lawfully segregated. We had our own form of apartheid here in the United States. My parents went through it. So just because you have people there of a different race doesn't mean they're not treated differently. That's the part. He's big mad in this one. Look at his face.
Finish, please. Look.
Piers, if Max is going to interrupt this whole time, I'm going to jump in too.
Max.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's helpful if we don't all talk over each other.
There's no country in the world that is less apartheid than Israel. It has black ministers. It has Arab justices of the Supreme Court. Every Middle.
Stop. See, here comes the black card. Let me tell you something. They have Ethiopian ministers. The same Ethiopians that I showed you multiple videos about 2-3 years ago. I showed you these videos that the Israelis were yelling at saying, "Get out of here." Those same Ethiopians, they don't want them there either. They're there, but how are they treated? And then what he also doesn't tell you is that those Ethiopians also end up joining the IDF. And they're just happy that they're not treated as badly as the Palestinians, but they're still treated badly. When Chris Smalls was on the show, he told you, and me, of course, that when he was detained, when he walked into that prison, everyone that was in that prison, other than himself, were Ethiopian or Filipinos. So just because you sprinkled in African people in Israel, that doesn't mean they're treated the same. And a lot of them will hate on the Palestinians just because they don't want to be treated as badly as them. How's that for you? That's supremacy in its finest. When people who are a minority or of a darker complexion, they will go along with the supremacist just so that they're not at the same level as the other group. It's hilarious. I really couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't believe he said it. It reminds me of the people that are like, oh, no. They're not racist. Look, there's a black family that lives on that street. They're not racist. They have a black friend. They're not racist. They voted for Obama twice. Are we in Get Out, Dershowitz? I don't think anyone that watches this show is in the sunken place. I'm actually surprised he didn't say that one. The next one. Oh, they voted for Obama twice. I would have voted for him twice.
East country prohibits Jews from living there, buying property. In Israel, Arabs are absolutely equal. Israel is not guilty of apartheid, is not guilty of genocide. Max is essentially a Holocaust denier because when he talks about things like the final solution,
you're a Holocaust supporter,
and genocide, what he's saying is that these things didn't happen in Nazi Germany. The idea of Jewish children being walked into the gas chambers,
they did happen in Nazi Germany, and they're happening again.
That's a Holocaust,
but that
isn't happening. That isn't happening in Israel.
And when you compare the two, let
me finish, please. Stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting.
You called me a Holocaust denier.
Self-defense. You are. When you call self-defense Holocaust,
you're a Holocaust supporter.
Confuse trying to kill terrorists with genocide, you are a Holocaust minimizer and a Holocaust denier. So let's be very clear about that. What Israel
Max Blumenthal, till this day, has never denied the Holocaust ever. I've never heard him deny that. So now we're moving the goalposts, right? Because now they're moving the goalposts of what it really means to deny the Holocaust. So now if you're accusing Israel of genocide, now you're also a denier of the Holocaust. You see how they just say things to make it mean what they want it to mean at that point in time? This is why nobody takes you. This is why, and part of the reason why the sympathy and the pity just isn't. A lot of people have woken up. A lot of people have woken up. And I said this before. I told you guys, for all the people, particularly in this country, that had an issue with DEI, had an issue with discussion about race and ethnicity and all this kind of stuff, why is it that some of those same people have no problem pushing, promoting, and advocating for safe spaces for said group in this country? Why is that? Isn't that DEI just for a different group? Because the whole Israel project is just colonialism. It is the final phase of colonialism. And once they continue, if they succeed at that greater Israel project, Netanyahu said so himself, then we will go on to liberate Africa. So Africa, they looking at you too. They're going to be coming your way too, just like all the supremacists before them. That's what this is really about. So now all of a sudden, we just moving the goalposts and we changing definitions because we're not happy with the conversation. I don't think that Alan Dershowitz was ready to go against Max Blumenthal. I really don't think he was. I think there's a reason why it has taken Piers Morgan this long to bring Max Blumenthal on the show. I think there was also a reason why RFK Jr. backed out of having that conversation with Max Blumenthal. Because unlike Max, you can't look at him and say, oh my gosh, you've never been? Remember that guy on Joe Rogan? You've never been? You can't say that to him. He's written books about it before October 7th. I don't think he was ready for this.
How does that make sense?
No, I got to say, Alan, I think that
how does that make any sense?
I don't think that is anything that Max has said. So I think it's a wrong thing to say.
What he said
Can I
is
respond
he's
in 5
minimized
seconds?
the Holocaust by comparing
Benjamin Netanyahu is a
to what's
Holocaust
going on in
minimizer.
Gaza.
Benjamin Netanyahu, your friend, blamed the Holocaust on Palestinians. Benjamin Netanyahu literally blamed the Holocaust of Jews in Europe on Palestinians.
Let's not all talk over each other.
You have to talk about
Don't
who
all
I'm
talk over each
defending.
other.
You have to talk about who I support.
Okay, let's not talk over each other.
The idea that you
Let me bring in the other
argue the
panelists,
merits.
please. There are 5 people on the panel.
Yeah, Dershowitz, not a good look for you. It appears that you didn't do too well under pressure. We got to drop a different beat.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever. Give him a name to remember. Didn't do too well under pressure. I still remember that time when Katie Halper told him, she said, you were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Kudos to Max. Good job. You guys, I'm telling you, watch the whole thing. But to me, it was just laughable. Laughable. I don't think he was ready for this. I don't think he was. You know, he wasn't ready when he tried to say that Max was denying the Holocaust. You know, he wasn't ready. Just throwing things out there. Oh, man. That was therapeutic. Like watching that, it was therapeutic the first time I saw it. But people like Alan Dershowitz and paid pro-Israel chick up there to the left, the right corner of the screen, they're pushing propaganda. That's it. Just pushing propaganda. And Alan Dershowitz, if you seem to have a problem with people bringing up these people that you represented or your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, then maybe you shouldn't have represented those people. This is what it is, man. But this I am the victim because you were calling out these things. I didn't see anything or hear anything there that Max said that was false. We have just seen repeated lies from Israel and Israel supporters for years. And for the first time, at least in my life, there is quite a bit of resentment towards Israel, including on the right. And I don't think they don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle this. Because the worst thing that happens is losing, like Max said, that information war. That's the worst when that happens. Then you're on defense, you know. The world will never look at Israel the same. And the longer people like Alan Dershowitz continue to support Israel, the worse it just gets. I mean, at this point, I don't understand how anyone can support Israel at this point. Even some of the Zionists that I saw on social media that were defending Israel after October 7th, even they're not defending Israel anymore. What does that tell you? So to Alan Dershowitz, you need to address the racists in this state of Israel that you love so much. That racist genocidal state. And for Black people, don't take your ass to Israel. I don't care what you're offered. I don't care if it's a free trip. Don't you take yourself there. They're just using you for a prop. And that goes out to the Congressional Black Caucus as well. You're just used as a prop. They don't care about your Black ass. You need to understand that. But that was so therapeutic. So therapeutic. Alan Dershowitz showed his whole ass. He showed his whole ass. Look at the look on his face. He looks constipated. I'm sorry. I had to end with the We had to end with a laugh. But yeah. That was therapeutic. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.